everyone. Welcome to this Spark Festival and Small Business Month event, The Great Unexpectation, How Female Entrepreneurs Embrace Change. My name's Karen Ballantyne. I manage New South Wales Treasury's small business programs, and I'm your MC today. I'd like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which we meet today and pay my respects to their elders, both past, present and future. And I'd like to extend that respect to Aboriginal people here today. I'm delighted to welcome our three panellists today. Edwina Sharrick, the founder and CEO of Birthbeat. Edwina's a midwife, a health advocate, tech entrepreneur and a mum of two from Tamworth. She's building an empire helping women to give birth. She founded Birthbeat, an online child education program, and is a recipient of the New South Wales Government's Minimum Viable Product Grant. Following her initial success, Birthbeat was successful in securing a $200,000 venture capital investment from Shark Tank. Very excited to have you here, Edwina.
Thanks,
Susan
Karen, for having me.
Excellent. Susan is a committee member of Sourdough Business Women. She's worked in healthcare management and research and higher education governance and executive leadership roles. She's got an interest and expertise in the future of the workforce, particularly in the healthcare, and is a director of the Northern New South Wales Local Health District Board. Susan's committed to supporting the development of women in leadership roles and lives with her young family on the far north coast of New South Wales, where she's a keen surfer, gardener and aspiring creative artist in her spare time. Welcome, Susan. Amy Chen is a Business Connect Access to Finance advisor. Amy started her own coaching and consultancy business in 2017. She has over 12 years experience in banking and financial cash services as a cash flow lender. So she's got a great expertise at assessing and reviewing the viability of hundreds of companies across many industries, both domestically and internationally. As well as running her own successful business, Amy's one of the New South Wales Government's Business Connect independent business advisors. She's based here in Sydney, supporting small and medium businesses to focus on the key drivers of their business and use their financial reports to unravel underlying issues and risks. Now, you should have access to a chat function. So if you have questions for the panel, please add them into the chat. Now, obviously 2020 has been a really tough year for entrepreneurs with the impacts of COVID, bushfires and drought here in New South Wales. I'd like to ask each of our panelists if they could tell us a little bit about your organisation and what are some of the challenges that you or your clients have experienced recently. Edwina, perhaps if we can kick off with you.
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Karen. So I guess a little bit of my why, if anyone out there finds that interesting, is I am a registered midwife, and being in a regional area, I was actually managing our local maternity unit, and I found that more and more women were coming into our birth suites, not only them, but their partners or their support people, feeling anxious or overwhelmed about what the birth experience was going to look like. And I'm a bit of a nerd when it comes to researching, and I started to research the impacts of childbirth education and how that can impact not only the birth experience, but that early parenting experience for parents. And I just felt it could be done better, and access was a big issue in a regional area. And so I very naively started my business, I will say. It would have been nice to know people like Amy and all the beautiful contacts I've made over the last few years. But I had a clinical background, no business background. So it was a very naive jump into saying, well, I think I can do it better, basically, which was, sounds super arrogant, but it was naive. But I was really passionate about improving birth experiences. And I also believe not only for women, but for expecting parents in general, that's about empowerment, and that comes through education, not sort of saying how you should. Birth is it becomes a very political thing sometimes, where people become very opinionated about other people's birth experiences, and that upset me. And I was like, no, birth should just be about empowering and educating people. So I started teaching in my living room. I'm an extreme extrovert, and my darling husband is an extreme introvert. So strangers coming into our living room on a weekend was not really that conducive to his idea of fun. And then I just rented a space. Like, it was a very organic growth of the business. Then a few years into teaching these classes on the weekend and working in maternity during the week, I had a 2 and a 4-year-old at the time. I realised that there were lots of people travelling to our classes. I'm kind of doing a fast forward version here for you. And I thought about the idea of taking childbirth education classes online. And the idea, about 5 years ago seemed really out there. And I think it still seems out there to some people prior to COVID. And that's really what has been the big change, that teaching online childbirth education has very much been embraced over the last 6 months. So the fast track of our business growth was we won an innovation award, we did a business accelerator, and that's when I started to connect with people and like getting the MVP, like connecting with my local Business Connect advisor here, joining an incubator. So sort of went through that whole roadmap essentially. And I guess our personal challenge as a business has been scaling quickly. So the demand for our product, the challenge for my clients has been the isolation. So the challenge for our expecting parents has been that feeling of isolation during their pregnancy and their time preparing for birth or being new parents. How we've overcome that is creating a really strong online community. So I get online 4 times a week live to speak to our community and make sure that we're supporting them. And that wouldn't have probably happened without COVID. And it's just been amazing, the community that we've created.
Excellent, thanks. And amazing to hear about your success scaling quickly, even in the face of such adversity. Susan, could you tell us a little bit about sourdough and some of the challenges that you're seeing amongst the local business and entrepreneurial community?
Absolutely. I should start by saying that COVID, while everyone's baking at home, we're nothing to do with bread. Sourdough is based in the Byron region, and it was started by 4 very successful and quite high-profile businessmen about 10 years ago, and they used to meet in a coffee shop on a Saturday morning on their bike rides and have lattes and sourdough. And their idea was we needed to support employment in the Byron Bay region and support small businesses and startups. Our motto is step up, skill up and scale. So it gives you an idea of the breadth of activities that we're trying to do, and I'll talk about those in a little later. But the sourdough name came from the breakfast and has sort of caught on ever since, but it has been a bit confusing. I was asked whether I was taking sourdough donuts to a meeting recently. We're in the Byron Shire, and I guess there was a high-profile Four Corners about the Byron area recently. We're a high tourism region, but that's not our only area of activity. But in the region, 40% of businesses have reported an 80% drop-off in their clientele, and that during COVID. The biggest challenges they've had obviously have been maintaining their fixed overhead payments. What we've seen, and I'm sure this is common everywhere, thank heavens for JobKeeper and JobSeeker. It's kept a lot of the local businesses going. But we've also seen, as Edwina just mentioned, quite a lot of innovation and pivoting. So particularly moving into the online space has been a very big help. The other point I'd like to make, and it's not unusual to regional area, really changed the landscape for small business and entrepreneurs, is we've seen a rapid influx of people from the cities. Our city rates are less than 1%, but it's changing the way we're getting high income people instead of small local business people. So we're seeing quite a polarised community. House prices are going up. There are a lot of very wealthy people coming into town, and it's squeezing an end of the market. We don't really know what that's going to look like yet, but it's the stay-at-home mums with the cottage industry who are the small businesses that we're trying to support. And I think it's too early to see the effects that demographic change is going to have on them, but I suspect we're probably going to lose some of the creativity in the region that has attracted people here in the first place.
And that will be a real shame. But I have to say, looking at that beautiful picture behind you, I can certainly see the attraction of moving north. Amy, could you tell us a little bit about Business Connect and some of the challenges your clients are experiencing? Amy, are you there? Can you hear me? Okay, we might come back to Amy. Edwina, could you tell us a little bit more about your entrepreneurial journey? It's very exciting to hear how quickly you're scaling. Could you tell us a little bit more about your journey and some of the success that you've had?
Well, firstly, I have to say I don't feel like it has been quick. I think that's that's always the myth behind a business, is that appearance of the overnight success, or you've gotten so like essentially Birth Beats started in my mind when I was pregnant, or when I first birthed Polly, and Polly turns 9 in February. So I think I fit into that classic overnight success, 10 years in the making. And we're definitely not to where we want to be yet, but obviously COVID, we saw a lot of growth. What was exciting around the growth is that the way our product was set up, and I guess our strategic plan at the beginning, I really enjoyed. I hope anyone who hasn't listened, if you're able to go back and listening to Ariane from Bell and Bone, who just presented about how she had a plan of where she wanted to go prior to starting. And I think our tagline is bettering the birth experience for all. And when I say that, I really mean all. And I mean Indigenous communities, I mean rural and regional and remote communities, I mean the working mums, the single mums, the dads who are planning to have a baby together. I really wanted to always make sure that I had a product that was really inclusive and embracing everybody. So we already had that built, and so that's kind of exciting from that scaling point of view. The model was right, but I think in a way we fluked that. It wasn't it wasn't me going, oh, I want a scalable product. I just wanted a product that I could get to people who were isolated for whatever reason, whether that was social, geographical, financial, whatever their reason for being isolated from quality education. But I guess my journey, and the Shark Tank thing sounds kind of sexy and like it was cool. It was actually a horrifying experience because it's all filmed live, and whatever you say is going to be used. So, I felt incredibly nervous at the time. I can also say you go through due diligence after, and you have to work out if it's the right fit. So it's not all as kind of fun as it looks, a television show, but I'm sure that's things with all television shows. What I have found challenging, and I probably am speaking more from a female founder, was around finding aligned investors. So investors who shared the passion for continuing to deliver quality. There have been some of the challenges that we've experienced, but I definitely think that's something we're starting to overcome. And I think it's about kind of having the guts to say, look, I know this is a bit different. I know really, as a midwife, my core is, I believe, that face-to-face is probably the gold standard of teaching childbirth education classes. That creates that sense of community. You get to meet other parents in your area. But the reality is that our millennials are not going to, that's not going to be the way that they expect to learn. They want to be able to do it, on their phone, on their iPad, on their smart TV. It's just kind of making sure that we're moving ahead with the times. And that's been challenging. And I think it would be interesting for Susan, like it's been challenging for the health departments to really understand that and move quickly. And that's my biggest challenge at the moment. But it's also, I've worked in health. I understand how hard it can be to introduce innovative products in health because it carries with it risk. And, you know, it's not an area where we're going to take a lot of risk, is people's health and their well-being. So that's been really interesting. I will say how our product has pivoted and grown as a result of COVID. Like if we're talking about that, embracing the change, is our much stronger focus on not just the physical health and well-being of the expectant parents or in that perinatal period, but also the mental health and well-being. And just the data that's out there at the moment, this has been an incredibly challenging 6 months. And I think with what's happening in Victoria, people are starting to feel like it's coming to an end, and it's very much, I believe, not going to be coming to an end yet. And we need to really focus on not just the physical health, but the mental health as well. And that's been a big focus for BirthBeat the last few months, and we're really excited about what we're able to do with that.
Yeah, fantastic. And maybe that's a good opportunity to just highlight that business owners, you're obviously your business's most important asset, and it's okay not to be okay. If you do need help as a business owner and an entrepreneur, there are lots of places you can find support. So Safe Work, New South Wales has a great resource library and some workplace mental health programs. aheadforbusiness.org.au's got some information programs and interventions that can help you with planning to understand how you're doing against everyday business stresses and take action. Beyond Blue's got some great toolkits and strategies and research papers, as has headsup.org.au. And as part of Small Business Month, the Black Dog Institute are running a series of mental health online training workshops, so you can jump onto the Business Month website for those. Now I think Amy is, Amy, can you hear me? Can you hear me, Amy? Could you tell me a little bit about? Yes, I can hear you. About Business Connect and some of the challenges your clients have been experiencing recently.
Oh, good. Is a source where business owners can reach out to expert advisors, and during particularly during this time, the program was heavily subsidised. So it gave business owners that access to expertise in a time of real uncertainty, and a lot of the people that we got in through the program was it was the first time they've ever reached out to a government program, and it's when you go through a time of change and you work in your own business in isolation, it's hard to gauge sounding board that's not your family or your friends who tell you what get is almost got what direction should you be? Are you still there, Karen?
I am. You're breaking up a little bit for me, Amy. I'm not sure if it's at my end or your end. Edwina and Susan, can you hear Amy okay?
No, not really.
No. You might have a bandwidth issue, Amy, if you could have a quick look at that, and we might come back to you in a minute. Susan, perhaps could you share a little bit more about Sourdough's work in supporting female-led local businesses?
Sure. It's worth saying that Sourdough was set up for everyone, and so it's a not-for-profit, and the model is essentially drawing on the expertise in the region and then reinvest largely through mentorship. So the original program was identified a group of mentors who could support startups within the region. And Edwina, it sounds like you probably could have done with this sort of mentorship that we had. It's taken you nine years to get where you are. But the business model has evolved a lot over the last 10 years, and we now offer 6 sort of products. Mentoring is the main one. So we've got about 80 mentors across the region, and we're currently trying to get more. We also, one of the important components of Sourdough's pathways that has improved our sustainability is that we're supported by the local Byron Community College, which lets us offer accredited courses so we can support business skills workshops, and we do get some federal funding for those. We've got a program called Startup Northern Rivers. So I mentioned that we do startup, skill up and scale up. Our startup component offers things like pre-accelerator programs. And in fact, I'm enrolled in one of those myself for a startup that I'm trying to do. Within that program, and 8 of them are women. And I think they're all doing quite interesting businesses that it's interesting because of the time. We're right in the middle of COVID, and they're seeing opportunity. So examples of the kinds of things, there's a midwife looking at a different model of, she's not calling it a doula service, but that kind of support. There's a masseur who's run her own bodywork business for 20 years, but developed a brand around that and wants to be able to expand that and then scale up. There's a tourism entrepreneur who runs eco-tourism business. She started an app which lets people that come on her tours and other people within the region calculate their carbon footprint, and then offset that against local businesses. So that gives you an example of the sort of activity that people are introducing. I'll come back to Sourdough Business Women. We also have a thing called the Sourdough Innovation Hub, which is a geographic basis within the community college. So businesses can come there and be supported to scale up over a 2-year period when they're expected to be relatively independent and able to move on. And also offer a number of net events, so things like business lunches and face-to-face workshops and network. Those have really suffered under COVID, so we've had to really pivot online. So just coming back to the women, and I should have started this, about 5 years ago, Sourdough Business Pathways recognised that most of the new startups in the region were being started by women, but they weren't accessing the support in the same way men were. So they pulled together a committee of women and said, we've got an issue here. We know that there are a lot of women doing sort of small industries, cottage industries, a range of startups, but for some reason they're not accessing support in the same way and rate that men. So we got a group together, and I have to say we were a bunch of alpha females, mostly high profile and successful business women, and we had to do together, first of all, identify what are the issues for women. Are there different issues? And the answer definitely is yes, there are issues for women starting up small business. They can be, one thing that we've seen during COVID with our meetings is that women are trying to juggle feeding their kids, often being single parents, trying to run a business, maybe trying to get a startup off the ground. And so they've got primary caring responsibilities that perhaps their partner won't have, or own sole caring responsibilities. Or they're starting different businesses, or they're starting a business with their partner, and there are gender issues in the way that the partner wants to work with them around money and organisational management. So we've started a group of monthly workshops specifically run by women for women to support them in issues that they wanted particular support with. So things like marketing, branding, finance, But since COVID hit, we've really pivoted that. So the first meeting was around coping with COVID and the issues that you're likely to be facing. And then we've offered a number of really supportive workshops, how to access finance under the state and federal government funding. And we support the women to go into mentoring where and when that's appropriate. So we've helped them pivot. We've got 4 industry clusters, and again, this might be of relevance to you, Edwina, and they've grown really out of what we've got in the region. The first one is knowledge industry. So we're getting a lot more technology in the region. So we've got co-working spaces, but there's a technology hub that's under Bella Shire. Food industry is obviously a big one in the Byron Shire region with this beautiful fertile soil, and is quite a big employer of a number of small business women. The other area that is big and growing is our creative industries, and we're just in the process of launching the film studio, which was an offshoot of our program, and health and wellbeing is another big area. So we've got a number of businesses similar to the sorts of things that you're doing, a number of wellbeing programs, and we're also partnering with the North Coast Allied Health Association because there are a number of small businesses as well. We have had New South Wales state government funding, and that's enabled us to start to replicate the model into some of the other areas in the region. I think I'll leave it there and
excellent. Thank you. I'm just noticing we've got 1 or 2 questions coming through. Yeah, sorry, I'm hoping Amy will be able to rejoin us. A question from Suki: what they've found challenging is the focus on existing business for government grants. Yet, if you're a startup, there's very little financial help. Edwina, you mentioned that you were a minimum viable product recipient, which is for those of you who don't know, it's match funding of up to $25,000 for pre-revenue technology startups to help them engage with a business customer or a channel to market to get that market validation and first sale. How did you find the process of applying for the grant, and was there anything else that supported you in those very early stage?
Yeah. So I think, yes, Susan, I would have loved the support of Sourdough while I was, had a 2 and a 4-year-old around my feet trying to create this idea. And I think for me, it was not having any structure, and that, I can speak to the service that Business Connect provided me in this area. As I said, I had no business background prior to this, and I still remember about 3 years being into Birth Beat, and my husband, who was traveling for work, saying, you're spending a lot of time on this business. Is it making you any money? And I was very much driven by my passion and hadn't really considered and I think that's when you come from a health background, that's very much you come from this place of service. But he said it's not sustainable if it's not making money. And that was the first kind of conversation of going, right, well, I have to work out a way that we either, get a bit of cash flow or earn some money to invest back in. And it was all bootstrapped at the beginning. And he said to me, why don't you do a P&L? Oh, that's what I said. I said, how do I work out if it's making any money? He said, well, what's your P&L say? I was like, I don't know what a P&L is. I didn't tell him that. I said, oh, okay, well, I'll do a P&L tonight. And I was at home. He was traveling for work. And I still remember going to the study and Googling what is a P&L, which, now just blows my mind because it's been such an amazing journey. And now, my accountant will go, I'll say, why is our net profit margin sitting, like I can know all this, and it's so exciting. But it's, and this is my message to all business owners, not just women, but particularly women, is finding the people that can help you to do this. And I always say it's like finding a village, finding your tribe. Don't try and do what I did for those first few years because it is slow. You're not going to get sort of the growth. And when I say growth, I don't mean financial growth. I mean about spreading your impact. And whatever you have, someone in the world wants what you have. You've just got to work out how to get it to them, but it needs to be in a sustainable way so you can get it to more people. Sorry, declined that call. And I think that's the big message, is it's about asking, like saying, this is what I want to achieve. Are you able to help me with that? And so I met a advisor who introduced the idea of the MVP. Part of getting the MVP was you needed to be attached to an incubator. And I still work in that incubator now. We've grown into a co-working space where I think similar to what you do at Sourdough, for those smaller businesses that are starting, I'm a mentor now to those smaller businesses, and I love being able to do that and giving back to my community, because we're creating jobs, we're improving the economic status of our town. Like I live in a small regional town, but you can't do those things on your own. So it's absolutely about just look at government grants, look at non-government grants, look at philanthropic grants, look at, all the different grants that are out there, just to the question that was just asked, because it is really hard when you're bootstrapping and you might be, essentially earning a wage, but then feeling like you're putting that money back into your business. If you find something that you're truly passionate about, that's okay, but you also need to be doing it in a sustainable way so that you can continue to grow and enjoy it. Because I see with so many, particularly female-founded businesses, they just sort of run out of steam. So you need to have that village around you who's going to continue to encourage you and teach you. And, really, I always say your vibe attracts your tribe, and you need your tribe. So just make sure that you get a good tribe around you that are definitely going to push you up rather than pull you down.
Looks like we've lost Karen, but I can respond to what you were just
saying. Sorry, I'm back.
We'll just take over.
No, all good. I love an entrepreneurial team. Yeah, look, some of the things that you were saying at the start, the great thing about the New South Wales Government funded Business Connect advisory services, it's really affordable. You can access some hours of support that are free of charge, and we deliver about 700 webinars and events a year, and there are hundreds of events like this one for Small Business Month and through the Spark Festival as well. And because an advisor, they've run their own successful business and they've got the marketing, business or financial qualifications, but they're not emotionally invested in your business, so they can be a really great source of knowledge.
It's not a good day for the NBN, is it?
I was going to say, thanks, NBN. Trying to run an online business.
It was funny, we're the ones in the regional areas as well.
I know, isn't that exciting? I'm very proud of our internet at the moment. I think Port Sydney's just at its capacity with everybody Zooming.
Given that we've lost Karen, I'll just tell you what we do to support small businesses in our startup space. So with the Pre-Accelerator Workshop, it's an 8-week, very targeted program run by Flinders. Well, we've adopted a Flinders University startup model, but every week we pitch to potential angel investors and venture capitalists with a view to building up a proper pitch, either for a financial ask or a partnership or something like that. So at the end of 8 weeks, you've really been forced through the finances, the audience, what your MVP looks like and what sort of projections you're going to have 5 years out. So these are things that I think a lot of, as you said, people don't think about when they're going into a small business space. So it's really helpful, and mentors around to support that as well.
That would have been amazing a few years ago for me, but so that's what I just always make sure that I share. And as I said, it's not just women, but I just think like what you said, I do see that men will make bigger, bolder asks in this space. So I then went on to do a 3-month accelerator in Sydney, which, that comes as a huge challenge. And I had to make a lot of personal sacrifices in that I was away from my children Monday to Friday. I was fully committed to the business. I'm really grateful that I have a very supportive family around me. And again, that's where I talk about my tribe and the village. But it was majority men in this accelerator. and it was majority young men because I work in, health tech, in jeans and t-shirts and baseball caps, and I'm there in my, floral dresses. And actually, someone said to me, one of the senior mentors said, you could try fitting in a little more. Maybe wear jeans and a t-shirt. And I remember just being horrified. And that's like a red rag to a bull for me, as a bit of as a proud feminist and as a proud business owner. And I'd made such a sacrifice to be away from my children and living in Sydney for 3 months. You should have seen the feminine floral get-ups that came out after that comment was made. Like, I made a strong stance of, you don't have to fit in. You've just got to, know your product, know your market, and stick to your lane. Like, that's what I'm always saying to people in business. Don't worry about what's going past on the sides or who's doing a, Series B round and you're going, oh, I don't even know, what my MVP is. It's like, stick to your own lane is my big advice.
Yeah. And sorry, I'm back again, hopefully. And if you are a regional business and you're heading to Sydney, the Sydney Startup Hub is a great place. We've got co-working facilities. There's a regional landing pad that you can book in to have some desk space. It's a really great way to get connected to the ecosystem, and they have mentoring and programs and events there as well. So yeah, check that out.
I look forward to the travel starting again, because that landing pad is amazing.
I'll just mention one more innovation that we've got that I think is quite innovative to the kind of startup space, which is a thing called ULab, which has been developed by the Massachusetts Institute of Technology. So it's a program to support social and business ideas through their inception and through prototyping and implementation. But it's got a number of tools within that. For example, one of those is coach circles, to get groups of, for example, mentors together around a common issue. It's one of the tools that we've used quite heavily through COVID. So coaching circles, which are mentees and perhaps one mentor who can get together and support one another around a particular issue, or, as you said, it gives you a supportive community with a structured way together to progress you through a particular issue. It's been a very powerful tool, and it's something that we're using to spin out new projects and also to support our teams.
Fantastic. That sounds like a really great initiative. And some other support available for female entrepreneurs wherever you are across New South Wales is the TAFE Women in Business program. So they've got a series of webinars with some leading female entrepreneurs and some online topics that you can work through at your own pace. Yeah, and also because we're talking today to the health the health sector, I also just wanted to flag a recent announcement about the Innovation District's COVID-19 Research and Development Challenge. So if you're in that sector, the New South Wales Government's offering a pool of $500,000 in funding for solutions that address the health and wellbeing impacts of COVID. So really another great initiative to help businesses accelerate commercialization and come to market. Edwina, you mentioned earlier that you've been nominated for an award. How did you find the impact of that on your business?
Look, awards are funny things. They stroke the ego a little bit and you feel good about the actual experience. I think if I'm speaking really honestly, with awards, sometimes they can take, like, they're fabulous things. They help expose your business. They help expose your product, which is really the only reason. I basically will just say yes to any opportunity where I can promote and share my story or share what I can offer to expecting parents. So my husband mocks me and says that I would go to the opening of an envelope. And I think awards are really powerful in that sense, particularly for if you're bootstrapping and you're really early in your startup journey, is also looking at those awards that you can get some money out of. Like, let's be really honest, if you want money to invest back into your business, that can be a really good thing. Or looking at other awards that are maybe like with a business that you want to do business with. So, and I think, being a bit strategic about that and really thinking through, well, what could that partnership look like? So we've been through a few awards processes. All of them have been positive experiences for us. Whether you're the winner at the end of the day or not, that's not actually relevant. There's always something. Like I'm hugely curious, and I always go into the things just expecting like I'm going to know the least in the room, and always look at an opportunity of how I can be learning. And I think for all kind of entrepreneurs or for startups, if you can approach any sort of awards night or networking event like that, you're always going to come out learning something and growing, either as your personal self, but also for your business opportunities. And tell people what you want to get out of that award, and that's usually when you'll see the results. So I know that sometimes people think, like awards. But I put awards in those grant opportunities. You've got to be in it to win it. So why not just take that opportunity?
How did you go about getting the MVP award, and what did that specifically do for your business?
Yeah, so and what I will also say to that, because I think this is interesting for Sourdough, so I went through the MVP process, and then 3 other businesses that are in our co-working space, actually 4, have now been successful MVP recipients. So we're all about really sharing and collaborating here as businesses, totally different businesses, but able to go, oh, well, this is what the process looked like for me at the time. And I don't think it has changed much, Karen. It was a online paper application, just explaining, and you had to put in what's your expected budget, where will the money be going. You had to do, I think, a 6-month and a 12-month report on where you used that. And that was actually what we used to build our first online portal. So that's where we invested our money, and that no longer exists because it's grown and evolved into a more sophisticated product. But we wouldn't have been able to get to this stage, I think, if we didn't have that investment. It's very expensive building software and building online portals, and definitely was not where my skill strength lay. So I was able to outsource a lot of that. And the great thing was, one of the people that I actually employed at the beginning of the MVP is still with me.
Fantastic.
And
I'm
she's
just
a Tamworth-based person.
Yeah, excellent. I'm just mindful of the time.
We probably need to wind up quite soon, don't we?
I was going to say, I've got no access to the chat bot, so if anyone's got any questions.
I can see it, and no one is asking questions. I can just see Karen logging in. The point they were going to ask us would one piece of advice be to all participants.
That would be great.
Yes.
Sorry, Karen. We thought we'd better take off.
Totally.
I know, it's good to see the internet in Tamworth and Byron is better than in Sydney. What's your one piece of advice? Perhaps you, Susan.
Look, I was going to say networking, and it's actually the point that which is gather people around the support, and actually having a mentor is probably the best to start.
Excellent. And Edwina?
I had 2 things, and I think we did sort of touch on it earlier. When you're a startup or you're a solo entrepreneur, you are your biggest asset, but you're also your biggest liability. And if you don't invest in yourself, and what that investment, when I say invest in yourself, whether that's coaching or finding a mentor or self-care, you know, and knowing what you need in terms of your self-care so that you're not burning out, or even if you're just in those really early stages and it might be hiring a babysitter or asking a friend to watch your young children so you can have 2 or 4 hours of focused work each week, that's an investment in you so that, you know, you can grow. But it's super important that we recognize, and again, I think particularly as women, we need to be able to how to manage that mental load and really look after ourselves first and foremost. And then my next one was just, and I always say this, just have fun and be kind. If you do those 2 things in business, you will always come out on top.
Very, very wise words. And I'd like to echo that. There is a lot of support for your business from local organisations, from your
Well, I feel like I've had a great mentor session with you, Edwina. Thank you.
Yeah, great to connect. And I think this is the problem as well. Everybody from Byron sells Byron so well. I'm already going, I want to come and see Sourdough and I want to connect. I probably can't afford housing in Byron at this stage now, it sounds like, but it is just such a magic part of the world.
To our women's group, if you'd have to, do that.
I'd love to. Any excuse. We're all looking at different ways to travel in New South Wales, so by all means.
Yeah, I seem to be back for two seconds, so I'd like to echo your advice. Get connected to great organisations like Sourdough and other local innovation networks. Take up the opportunity of having your own business concierge, attending the hundreds of events at Small Business Month to upskill and reboot your business. Find a Business Connect advisor that meets your needs, and there's a great online toolkit of around 80 pre-recorded webinars you can access at a time that suits you. So if you're juggling the demands of starting your business and childcare, you can access those at any time, and those wonderful advisors can connect you into your local innovation ecosystems and to additional support. So a really huge thanks, Edwina and Susan. Unfortunately, technical issues meant Amy couldn't be with us, and for those of you listening, we'll circulate an email with all the links that we've discussed here today for your reference. So wishing you all the best for your business or your side hustle, and do register for some more of these great events for the Spark Festival. Thanks.
Thanks, Karen.